If you close your eyes right now and let your mind drift back past the digital age, back past the neon 80s, and land right in the middle of the 1970s, what is the first thing you see? Is it the warm glow of the streetlights hitting the pavement? Is it the sound of a bass guitar thumping from a car window? Or is it the people? The 1970s was a decade of expression. It was a decade of liberation. We were coming off the heels of the civil rights movement in the 60s. And suddenly, Black is beautiful wasn't just a chant at a rally. It was a reality in our closets. We were taking up space. We were demanding to be seen. And the way we dressed was the loudest conversation we were having with the world. I have compiled a list of 25 fashion trends that defined the Black American experience in the 70s. Some of these you might still wear today. Some of them, well, some of them probably need to stay in the 70s. But we loved every single one of them. So get comfortable. Pour yourself some coffee or maybe some sweet tea. Let's see how many of these you remember. 1. Bell bottoms. You cannot talk about the 70s without talking about bell bottoms. And listen, I'm not talking about the little bootcut jeans you see at the mall today. I am not talking about a subtle little flare at the ankle. I am talking about bell bottoms that were aggressive. I am talking about pants that started skin tight at the thigh, so tight you had to lie on the bed and use a wire hanger to zip them up. And then right at the knee they exploded. They flared out like a trumpet. We called them elephant ears, and that was accurate. The flare was so wide it completely swallowed your shoe. You could be wearing combat boots or bare feet, and nobody would know because that hemline was sweeping the ground. Do you remember the sound? That is a specific memory, the swish, swish, swish sound of denim rubbing against denim as you walked down the hallway at school. You could hear a group of friends coming from around the corner just by the sound of their pants sow. But there was a struggle with bell bottoms that nobody talks about anymore. The rain. If it rained even a little bit, or if there was snow on the ground, you were in trouble because those pants dragged on the floor. They acted like a sponge. You would walk home, and the bottom 6 inches of your jeans would be soaking wet, heavy, and dirty. You'd take them off, and your ankles would be dyed blue from the wet denim. But did that stop us? Absolutely not. We washed them, we starched them until they could stand up by themselves, and we put them right back on. Because nothing made you look cooler than a pair of bells swinging while you walk. 2. The metal afro pick. Item number 2. This wasn't just a tool for your hair. This was a piece of jewelry. This was a badge of honor. The metal afro pick with the black fist handle. Now, let's be clear. The plastic picks were fine for a quick touch-up. But if you had a serious afro, and in the 70s, we were growing them as big and as round as the moon, you needed heavy-duty equipment. You needed metal. You would spend 20 minutes in the mirror, lifting that hair, patting it into that perfect symmetrical sphere. It was geometry. It was art. And once it was perfect, you didn't put the pick in your pocket. No. You took that pick and you slid it right into the side of your hair, or maybe the back, and you left it there. It just sat there, defying gravity. The black fist handle sticking out was a symbol. It said, I love my hair. I love my culture. I am proud. But let's be honest about the pain for a second. If you were in a rush, or if you were angry, and you dug that metal pick into your head too hard, ouch. We all have a memory of scratching our scalp with those cold metal tines. And losing your favorite pick? That was a tragedy. You would tear the house apart looking for it, because that pick was part of your outfit. Without it, the look just wasn't complete. Moving on to number 3. The uniform of the 70s man, and quite a few women too. The polyester leisure suit. This was the era of wash and wear. We were tired of ironing cotton. We wanted clothes that were futuristic. We wanted clothes that would never wrinkle. So, the industry gave us polyester. And the colors. We didn't do subtle colors in leisure suits. We did pastel baby blue. We did mint green. We did canary yellow. We did a shade of salmon pink that I haven't seen since 1979. The suit was a matching set. The pants matched the jacket perfectly. The jacket usually had big, wide lapels and patch pockets on the front. And the stitching? The stitching was often a contrasting color, just to make sure you saw it. You would put on your leisure suit, button it up, and you felt smooth. You looked like you were ready for the cover of an album. But here's the reality check. Polyester does not breathe. It is essentially made of plastic. You would be at the house party. The music is playing. The room is crowded. You are dancing to the Isley Brothers. You look cool on the outside, but underneath that mint green suit, you were melting. You were sweating rivers. It was like wearing a sauna. But you couldn't take the jacket off because then you ruined the look. So you just carried a handkerchief, wiped your forehead, and kept dancing. Item number 4. In the 70s, everybody wanted to be tall. We wanted to tower over the world. And the platform shoe was how we did it. I'm talking about shoes with soles that were 3, 4, even 5 inches thick. And not just the heel, the whole shoe was lifted off the ground. We had buffalo boots with the big chunky toe. We had cork wedges. We had stacked leather heels. We even had those wild shoes with the clear plastic heels that had water and goldfish inside them. We called them aquarium shoes. Can you imagine? But the real miracle of the 70s wasn't the moon landing. The real miracle was that we didn't all break our ankles wearing these shoes. Have you ever tried to do the bump or the electric slide in 5-inch platforms? It required balance. It required core strength. And walking on uneven pavement was a danger zone. If you stepped on a crack in the sidewalk and your ankle rolled, you were going down. It was a long way down to the ground. But the feeling of lacing them up, it was powerful. You stood up, and suddenly you were 6 feet tall. You walked with a heavy stomp. Clomp, 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 daddy. You commanded attention. The butterfly collar. Number 5. You couldn't wear the leisure suit without the shirt to match. And the most important part of the shirt was the collar. The butterfly collar. These weren't the polite little collars you see on dress shirts today. These collars were aggressive. They were enormous. The points of the collar reached all the way out to the edge of your shoulders. They looked like wings. And there was a rule. The collar had to go over the lapel of your jacket. You didn't tuck it in. You popped it out. You spread those wings wide. We had shirts made of silky, slippery nylon material. They had wild prints, paisley, geometric shapes, scenic landscapes of sunsets and mountains. We used to call them hickey hiders back in high school because if you popped that collar up, it covered your entire neck. Looking back at photos now, it looks like we were about to take flight. It looks like if a strong wind came along, we would just glide away. But at the time, popping that collar was the universal sign that you were cool. Item number 6 is special. This wasn't just a trend. This was a movement. The dashiki. After the release of the miniseries Roots, and with the rise of the Black Power movement, there was a massive cultural shift. We stopped looking to Europe for fashion advice, and we started looking to Africa. The dashiki was beautiful. It was a loose, tunic-style shirt, usually with a V-neck, and embroidered with incredible patterns around the neck and sleeves. The colors were rich. Deep oranges, harvest golds, forest greens, black, and red. It was comfortable, which was a nice break from those tight bell-bottoms. But more than that, it was a statement of identity. You wore your dashiki to the family reunion. You wore it to the Black Arts Festival. You wore it to church on Youth Sunday. When you walked down the street wearing a dashiki and you passed a brother or sister wearing one too, there was a moment, a nod, a smile, a raised fist. It connected us. It said, I know who I am. 7. Knee-high tube socks with stripes. Let's talk about the kids for a minute. If you were a boy growing up in the 70s or a tomboy girl, you owned item number 7. Knee-high tube socks with the stripes. This was the summer uniform. You had on your gym shorts, which were very short back then, let's be honest, and then you had these thick white socks pulled up as high as they could possibly go, right up to the kneecap. Gaia. And they had to have the stripes at the top. Usually 3 stripes, red and blue, or yellow and green. It didn't matter if it was 95 degrees in July. You wore those socks. You rode your Schwinn bicycle in those socks. You skateboarded in those socks. You played basketball in those socks. The tragedy was when the elastic started to wear out. There was nothing sadder than a tube sock that had lost its will to live, bunching down around your ankles. You'd spend the whole day pulling them up, trying to keep the stripes straight. Number 8. The fabric of the autumn. Corduroy. In the 70s, we loved texture. We wanted clothes you could feel. And nothing had feeling like corduroy. We didn't just have corduroy pants. We had corduroy jackets with the faux sheepskin lining. We had corduroy skirts. We had corduroy hats. We even had corduroy suits. It usually came in those earth tones that we loved: rust orange, chocolate brown, mustard yellow. It was durable. You could play rough in corduroy, and it wouldn't rip. But it was noisy. You know exactly what I'm talking about. The zip, zip, zip sound. If you were walking down a quiet hallway in corduroy pants, everyone knew you were coming. That friction between the thighs created its own rhythm section. And on a hot day, corduroy was heavy. But we wore it anyway because it looked smart. It looked academic. Number 9. For the ladies who were feeling bold. Hot pants. James Brown sang about them. Hot pants. Smoking. These were short shorts, but they weren't just cut-off jeans. These were high fashion. They were made of velvet, or satin, or leather. The style was to wear them with tights underneath, or maybe some knee-high boots. It was a look that said, I am confident. Now, grandmothers and church mothers did not approve of hot pants. Laugh. They would clutch their pearls. They would say, you are not leaving this house showing all your goodies to the neighborhood. So, a lot of girls had to do the change. You walked out of the house in a long skirt, and as soon as you got to your friend's house or the school bus stop, the skirt came off and the hot pants were revealed. It was rebellious. It was fun. It was the 70s. Number 10 creates a sound memory that might trigger some of you. Dr. Scholl's wooden sandals. You remember these? A solid block of sculpted wood for a sole with a single leather strap across the toes and a metal buckle. They were marketed as exercise sandals. The box claimed that just by walking in them, you were toning your legs because your toes had to curl and grip the wood bump to keep the shoe on your foot. Whether they toned our legs or not, I don't know. But I know they made noise. Clack, 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 clack. If your mama wore these, there was no sneaking around the house. You knew exactly where she was at all times. If you were doing something you weren't supposed to be doing, and you heard that rapid-fire clack, clack, clack coming down the hallway, you knew you had about 3 seconds to get your act together. They were heavy, they were hard as a rock, but every woman in the neighborhood had a pair. Sweater vests. Number 11 brings us to the smart look. The sweater vest. This was a staple for men and young boys. You put on your button-up shirt, probably with a butterfly collar, and then you layered a knit vest over it. It gave you a vibe. It made you look like a school teacher, or a choir director, or the nice guy in a sitcom. We had them in solid colors, but we really loved the patterns. Argyle was huge. Or those geometric zigzags in brown and beige. It was the perfect piece of clothing for when you wanted to look dressed up, but didn't want to wear a full jacket. And let's be honest, it was great for hiding a wrinkled shirt. If you didn't feel like ironing the whole shirt, you just ironed the collar and sleeves, threw a sweater vest on top, and nobody knew the difference. Number 12 is pure summer nostalgia. The halter top. These were the shirts that tied around the neck and left the shoulders and back completely exposed. They were made of that stretchy nylon material that clung to you, or sometimes they were homemade out of bandanas sewn together. This was the uniform of the summer block party. You'd pair a halter top with your bell bottoms, put on some big hoop earrings, and you were ready. The only struggle was the knot. By the end of the day, that knot at the back of your neck would be so tight from the weight of the shirt, you would need help getting it undone. But showing off those shoulders, it was worth the struggle. Number 13. In the 70s, we didn't just mix and match. We matched perfectly. We called them coordinates. If you opened a Sears or J.C. Penney catalog in 1975, you would see pages and pages of coordinates. The pants matched the vest. The vest matched the jacket. Sometimes the hat matched the jacket, and sometimes the shoes matched the purse. It wasn't enough to just wear blue pants and a blue shirt. The fabric had to be identical. If you were wearing plaid, you were a walking grid of plaid from head to toe. It showed commitment. It showed you bought the whole outfit, not just pieces. There was something very satisfying about opening your closet and seeing the hangers lined up with these full, pre-planned outfits. It took the guesswork out of getting dressed. Number 14. The ultimate one-piece wonder. The jumpsuit. Man, we loved a jumpsuit. It was efficient. Step in, zip it up, put on a wide belt, and you are fully dressed. We had denim jumpsuits for the daytime that made you look like a very stylish mechanic. And we had satin or spandex jumpsuits for the disco at night. They made you look long and lean. They were sleek. But we have to talk about the practical nightmare of the jumpsuit. Ladies, you know what I am talking about. Using the bathroom in a jumpsuit was a logistical crisis. You practically had to get naked in the stall just to handle your business. You're shivering, trying to hold the sleeves up so they don't touch the floor. It was stressful. But as soon as you zipped it back up and walked out, you looked fabulous again. Number 15 is for the headwear. The newsboy, or Applejack Capernaum. These weren't like the little flat caps people wear today. These were oversized. They were puffy. They were floppy. Donny Hathaway wore them. The Jackson 5 wore them. Marvin Gaye wore them. So, naturally, we all wore them. The brim was usually snapped down, and the top part was ballooned out. You could pull it down low over your eyes to look mysterious. You'd wear it tilted to the side, maybe with a matching scarf. It gave you that soul singer vibe. Even if you couldn't sing a note, you put on that Applejack cap and walked with a little more rhythm. It just added a layer of cool to whatever you were wearing. Number 16. The layer that wouldn't quit. The turtleneck. In the 70s, we apparently hated exposed necks. We felt the need to cover our necks at all times. We wore turtlenecks under everything. You wore a turtleneck under your leisure suit jacket. You wore a turtleneck under your sweater vest. You wore a turtleneck under a button-up shirt, leaving the shirt unbuttoned to show off the turtleneck. We loved the layered look. It could be 80 degrees in October, and we would still be rocking a thick, ribbed turtleneck because it looked sophisticated. We were sweating, yes, but we looked like professors. We looked like intellectuals. We looked like we read poetry in coffee shops. So we dealt with the heat. Number 17. The jewelry that told your secrets. The mood ring. We were obsessed with these things. It was a large, oval stone that supposedly changed color based on your mood. Blue meant you were calm and happy. Green meant you were average. Black meant you were stressed or tense. And purple? Purple meant you were passionate. We spent half the school day staring at our fingers. Oh no, my ring is black. Don't talk to me. I'm having a bad day. Or, girl, why is your ring purple? Who are you looking at? Now looking back, we know it was just reacting to body heat. If your hands were cold, it was black. If your hands were warm, It was blue. But back then, we believed in the magic. It was the original status update before Facebook existed. Number 18. The coolest jacket in the high school hallway. The satin baseball jacket. These were bright, shiny, and slippery. Usually, they had the logo of a sports team, the Raiders, the Lakers, the Jets, or they just had your name embroidered in script on the chest. They made a specific noise when you moved. Swish, swish. They caught the light. They were lightweight, but they made you look athletic and tough. And there was a romantic rule with these jackets. If a boy gave you his satin jacket to wear, that was it. You were spoken for. You were going steady. Walking around school with that oversized, shiny jacket hanging off your shoulders was the ultimate trophy. It was better than a ring. Number 19. You cannot talk about 70s men's fashion without this. The gold chains and medallions. Because the shirt collars were so wide and open, the chest was exposed, and you couldn't just leave that space empty. You had to fill it with gold. Every guy had a chain, and hanging from that chain had to be a medallion. Zodiac signs were huge. We were obsessed with astrology in the 70s. What's your sign? Was the #1 pickup line. So you wore a big gold lion for Leo, or the scales for Libra, or maybe it was an Italian horn, or a razor blade, or a cross. It added a bit of flash, a bit of danger. The sun would hit that gold and blind people walking past. It was glorious. Number 20. The confusing but comfortable Gocho pants. These were wide-legged pants that stopped mid-calf. They were very popular for women. When you stood perfectly still with your legs together, they looked like a midi skirt. But as soon as you took a step, you realized they were pants. They were usually worn with tall leather boots. It was the ultimate comfort wear for working women and moms. You could move in them, sit in them, run after kids in them, but they still looked dressed up. They came in denim, in polyester, even in leather. They were the precursor to the culottes we see today, but in the 70s, they were everywhere. Number 21. The fabric that was basically a towel. Terry cloth. I don't know who decided we should wear bath towel material as clothing, but in the 70s, we all agreed it was a great idea. We had terry cloth polo shirts. We had terry cloth shorts with the white piping on the side. We had terry cloth headbands. We had terry cloth rompers. It was soft. It was fuzzy. It was absorbent. If you were washing your car on a Saturday afternoon or hanging out at the park for a barbecue, you were probably wearing terry cloth. It gave off a sporty vibe. It looked like you just came from playing tennis at the country club, even if you had never held a tennis racket in your life. Number 22. The bigger, the better. Oversized bug-eye sunglasses. In the 70s, sunglasses weren't just for sun protection. They were a mask. The frames were plastic and thick. The lenses were huge circles or squares that covered your eyebrows and your cheekbones. They took up half your face. And usually the tint was a gradient. It was dark brown at the top and faded to clear or yellow at the bottom. They made everyone look like a movie star trying to avoid the paparazzi. You could be running to the grocery store for milk in your rollers, but if you put on those big sunglasses and a headscarf, you looked glamorous. They were also great for people watching. You could stare at anyone you wanted, and nobody knew where your eyes were looking because the glasses were so big. Number 23. Keeping our pants up in style. Clip-on suspenders. Towards the late 70s, suspenders made a massive comeback, but not the button-on kind your grandpa wore with his suit. These were the clip-on kind with the silver teeth. We wore them in bright colors, red, yellow, or rainbow stripes, and we wore them with jeans. Sometimes we wore them properly over the shoulders. Sometimes we let them hang down by our legs, just for the style. Yes, Mork from the show Mork and Mindy made the rainbow ones famous, but the streets were already doing it. It was a fun, playful look. and snapping them against your own chest? Snap. That was just a nervous habit we all developed. Number 24. Now, this isn't a piece of clothing, but it is the most important accessory a Black woman had in the 70s. The press and curl. Before relaxers became the daily norm for everyone, we had the hot comb. And the kitchen was the salon. You can smell it right now, can't you? The smell of blue magic or Dax grease melting on the scalp. The smell of hair singeing just a tiny bit. The smoke rising from the stove burner. You had to sit on a pillow on the floor between your mama's legs or your Annie's legs. And the command was always the same. Hold your ear. You had to fold your ear down tight against your head so that hot metal comb didn't burn the top of it. But let's be real, we all got burned at least once. We wore those little scabs on our ears like war wounds. But the result? When you stood up on Sunday morning and that hair was shiny, bouncy, and flowing, you felt like $1 million. You couldn't tell us nothing. Number 25. The crown jewel of Black American fashion. The Sunday church hat-it guy. This wasn't a trend. This was a lifestyle. This was an institution. In the 70s, the hats were architectural marvels. They had wide brims that extended past your shoulders. They were covered in silk flowers, feathers, netting, rhinestones, and ribbons. You matched your hat to your suit. If you were wearing emerald green, the hat was emerald green. A woman in a church hat demanded respect. You didn't play with her. The hat said, I am a queen. I am here to worship God, but I am also here to be admired. There were rules, though. If you sat behind a woman with a large hat in service, you didn't complain that you couldn't see the preacher. You just leaned to the side. You respected the crown. These hats were stored in big round boxes on the top shelf of the closet, packed with tissue paper. They were treasured. They were passed down. They were the ultimate symbol of dignity in our community. Looking back now, some of these styles were wild. The polyester was hot and scratchy. The platform shoes were a safety hazard. The collars were big enough to catch a breeze and fly away. But man, were they fun. We weren't afraid of color. We weren't afraid of texture. We weren't afraid to take up space. In the 70s, we dressed like we had somewhere important to be, even if we were just sitting on the front stoop. We took pride in our appearance because, in a world that didn't always value us, we valued ourselves. We adorned ourselves. We polished our shoes. We picked our froze. We pressed our clothes. We celebrated our beauty. So, I have to ask you, which one of these did you wear? Did you have the Applejack cap tilted to the side? Did you nearly break your neck in a pair of aquarium platform shoes? Are you still holding onto a bottle of blue magic grease somewhere in your bathroom cabinet? Or did I miss something? Did I miss the puka shell necklaces, the roller skates with the big wheels, the tube tops? I want you to go down to the comments right now. Tell me your favorite outfit from the 70s. Tell me what you wore to your first concert. Tell me about the time your mom caught you wearing hot pants. Let's keep these memories alive. If you enjoyed this trip down memory lane, please give this video a thumbs up. It really helps the channel grow. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss a video. We have so many more stories to tell, so many more memories to unlock. Until next time, keep your head high, keep your memories close, and stay stylish.